a summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are
Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, no bullshit. Before I get into Denver Broncos, where quarterbacks go to die, I want to ask the audience out there if Noah Fant was really a tight end, and Noah Fant himself, if he was worthy of a number one draft pick. Now, obviously, the jury's out. Everybody's going to say, and I think that the Denver Broncos absolutely need a marquee tight end. So we have to see, obviously, if he turns out to be that marquee tight end. He definitely has the burst over the number one tight end counterpart that was supposed to go ahead of him. So they're saying in training camp, for what it's worth. You remember Mr. Coach Soundbite, Vance Joseph. Yeah, I used to call him Coach Soundbite. He would tell you about how great, these players were in practice. He's a red zone machine, is what practice is saying. He's a red zone machine in this Scangarello offense. So we shall see. Yes, I think the Broncos needed two top, maybe three even, top positions. One on offense was tight end. If they were going to pick any number one, it either had to be tight end, middle of the line, your middle of the line defensive lineman, marquee, push the center into the quarterback's face kind of guy, or marquee linebacker. So anyway, yes, I think that it was a worthy selection. So anyway, back to Denver Broncos, where quarterbacks go to die. So the national sports talk radio was talking about Joe Flacco being replaced about week 6. And I said, and interestingly enough, in my broadcast, I said that week 6 would be where we see if Scangarello can make adjustments. Because usually week 6, teams usually start catching up to what you're doing. And I predicted that the Broncos should have offensively have an advantage over their opponents, because there's no game film on what exactly they're doing. Whether that translates into wins is another story. Anyway, so the national media is saying, putting out this idea that Joe Flacco will be replaced by Locke, and they don't mention the injury. They just say that Flacco the wheels have come off the wagon, Joe Flacco's wagon, enough that, and that's very well possible. I brought that up too. I said, they wouldn't have been the Baltimore Ravens wouldn't have been in such a hurry to get rid of him and replace him, and also make sure that he didn't get injured in the playoffs, so they could. They're worried about him getting injured, obviously, his history. So that's why he didn't play don't let him fool you. That's why they didn't play him, because they wanted to get as much value out of him as he could. If he would have got injured during the playoffs, the value for Joe Flacco would have gone way down. So, I bring this up where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, the death of Peyton Manning, the death of Trevor Sinney. It's like the old Wild West, where the gunslingers are in the middle of the road, and on Main Street they're going to have a shootout, and then the undertakers there ready to etch in a tombstone. And I said that Joe Flacco and Locke there may have to have 2 tombstones ready to go for 2 more quarterbacks going down the tubes. So one thing Joe Flacco has going for him is that he's going to be running a system that's play action. However, that doesn't bode well really for all you Locke lovers out there. And, I will say it again, I think the Denver Broncos did him a disservice by drafting him, because I do not see him as a play action quarterback. At best, I see him as a pocket quarterback and a backup, a strong arm backup. Down the road, maybe he becomes Nick Foles, and it's kind of the Tebow thing with him. I've noticed that, the expectations versus what you really get, kind of 2 different things. So, if I'm assuming Joe Flacco will go out, hopefully later rather than sooner. And I will say this: key to bring in Joe Flacco as opposed to having Case Keenum is Scangarello. Scangarello really needs a veteran like, if he's going to succeed. Like I said, Scangarello may be making his mistakes in Denver and be great somewhere else, because this is the first rodeo for him as an offensive coordinator outside of a small college. So anyway, the national media has picked the Flacco to another quarterback whose tombstone it'll be written. Another one bites the dust, and depending on when Joe Flacco goes out, it's going to be very difficult for Locke to, because the new quarterbacks are all coming out in 2020, and Locke is going to have to perform, or everybody's going to be drooling over the next quarterback. Again, I just want to say this: I don't understand the Denver Broncos. Why, for instance, you would draft Case Keenum when you have Bill Musgrave running some sort of a hybrid Mike McCoy Musgrave pocket quarterback system, and you bring in a play action quarterback like Case Keenum, and then of course throw him under the bus. Oh, it was all his fault. And I think the same is kind of true, but in reverse with Locke. They draft a guy who probably would be better off in a pocket quarterback system, probably be more comfortable there. Even though, yes, he'd have to take snaps under center and drop back, but he just didn't look very good rolling out. I mean, anytime he was in any kind of play action, it just didn't look good, and he didn't look comfortable. And for some people, that comes natural. There's a guy named, I think it's Rippon, on the Denver Broncos, a quarterback. That comes more natural to him. So 2 quarterbacks may be out, and we may be down to the 3rd stringer by the end of the season. Everybody may be clamoring for that shiny new quarterback come 2020. That's possible. If Joe Flacco can stay upright and healthy, and the offensive line can do its thing under Bill Musgrave, then maybe we'll go someplace. But next video is going to be Bill Musgrave. If he doesn't turn the offensive line around, don't give up on Bill Musgrave, because he only has what he has to work with.